Hey, 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 hey. Whoop, 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 whoop. This is the next episode. This is episode 139 of the Collective Podcast. I am AC from LA. He is SG Trilogy. And together, TC Pod Official. Yo, what's up, SG3? How's it going on your end, brother?
Brother, it is great, man. It's funny that our intro instrumental actually resonated a little bit different today because Dr. Dre just received his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame yesterday. So, timing wise, is great to listen to the instrumental of the next episode and give Dre his props, man. Star studded event yesterday with some iconic hip hop figures that were there to celebrate Dr. Dre. So shout out to Dr. Dre for receiving a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Everything is great, brother. You doing all right?
So shout out to Dr. Dre, and I feel like the responsible thing to do is to say also shout out to D Bar, just for kicks. Shout out to D Bar too. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Just give a shout. All right, cool. Yes, everything's good to go. We decided to kick it off on Wednesday, get that March Madness episode in. So
And
super
not just
excited.
that March Madness episode, bro. That's special. This is a special edition March Madness episode, bro.
What's
Let's
up?
see it. It reads a little bit differently.
You know what I'm saying? All right, so let's get into what we normally do and let them know where and how and where.
Yeah, so we're gonna even revise what we say because usually we'll say Saturdays are always best when you connect with the collective podcast. But I think for this special edition, we can just go ahead and say it's always best when you connect with the collective podcast. And there are quite a few ways that you can do it. You can check out our official website at the collectivepodcastofficial.com. On Facebook, we are TC Podcast Official. On YouTube, X, and Instagram, we are TC Pod Official. On Instagram, he is AC from LA. And on IG, yours truly, SG Trilogy.
Hey,
Here.
yo, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. What's your name, man?
New SG Trilogy.
Okay, and I'm is.
New AC from LA.
All right, so let's kick it off. It's episode 139. Here's our topics list. NCAA basketball.
That's it.
NCAA basketball.
But we can't just say NCAA because we're going to talk some NIT also. So we're talking all college. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah,
right.
you're right.
Yep,
NCAA.
Yep.
Man, I'm liking that jacket. That jacket you have on is crispy right there, brother.
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted, if it got a little cool out, I could just be like,
yeah, that's a good look. That's a good look, brother. Donning the alma mater.
The Bruins. You already know. All right, so before you get started, since we've got an abbreviated episode, special March Madness, let's get Ace Hood quickly. Let's watch Sam quiver in his boots until I get to 17 seconds. You see Sam start to sweat. See, you probably wouldn't.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. Thank you.
You know what I call that? I call that triumph. All right, Samuel. Let's start it off. What do you say? Let's get this thing. What is? I don't know. I know he went into 79. Something 79.
Let's take it back to 79.
Take it back to 79.
All right. So, as most of you remember, on our last episode, we previewed the fact that Selection Sunday was this past Sunday. And so Sunday, March 17th, we had Selection Sunday, and teams were chomping at the bit and waiting to see if they were going to be called for duty in the NCAA tournament. And so we're going to kick this one off with, now that Selection Sunday has concluded and NCAA basketball has begun, let's talk about the number one seeds. So out of the East, the Big East, and representing the Eastern region, the number one seed, as expected, is the UConn Huskies. The Huskies had a phenomenal season in which they went 31-3, and therefore they have top billing out of the East. Taking things over to the West, the top dog, UNC Tar Heels. After a season of going 27-7, they are the number one seed out of the West. We have the Houston Cougars out of the South, out of the Big 12, with a record of 30-4 as a number one seed. And then we have Purdue out of the Big 10. They're representing the Midwest after a season in which they went 29-4. So some tough teams at the top of things, but as we all know, they call it madness for a reason. And a lot of times when we see the big dogs get hit first, like those top tier teams fall out, their madness turns to sadness quite often. But as it pertains to UConn, UNC, Houston, and Purdue, I don't see UConn falling off anytime soon, because UConn is really playing some flawless basketball right now. Now, as we've seen in past years, anything can happen. But barring any injuries, I think UConn's going to be tough to knock off that top spot. From there, as mentioned, we started action yesterday, actually. And that happened in the form of the 16 seed Wagner University versus 16 seed Howard University, representing the MEAC, HBCU, HU. And that game was close throughout, but at the end, Wagner had just enough to get them over the hump. And Wagner was victorious with a 71-68 victory over Howard University. Great exposure. Anytime smaller schools can get into the tournament, specifically HBCUs get into the tournament. So it was a great game by Howard, but just at the end, they didn't have enough in the tank to overcome. From there, we had another exciting game, at least for one team. The 10th seed Colorado State faced the 10th seed Virginia, and Virginia was one of the last teams in, and it was questioned by quite a few other teams as to why Virginia made it to the tournament. And looking at their performance, I really questioned it. Colorado State was victorious with a 67-42 final in that game. And Virginia's coach, Tony Bennett, I promise you, he looked like he was on the side booking his travel pretty early in that game because it wasn't close from the tip. Let's take it to today. And without further ado, a major win. The first NCAA tournament win came in the form of the 16-seeded Grambling State University. Grambling State University defeated 16-seed Montana State 88-81, experiencing sweet victory for the first time in the NCAA tournament. And I am very happy for the Grambling State Tigers. Big up to all the Tigers alum, students. It's a great opportunity for yet an HBCU to experience the taste of winning in the tournament. So great exposure. Kudos to Grambling State. From there, another game that's happening right now, so it's not even close to being over just yet. We have a battle of 10 seeds in the form of Colorado versus Boise State. And as I said, that game is happening in real time as we speak. And Colorado is up 21-18 with 3 minutes left in the first half. All right, from there, brother, let's go on and talk about. Now, I know you are our women's basketball expert. You've been a fan of women's basketball forever. You're a referee. Do you actually put together a men's bracket?
No. So here's the thing. I used to, but once I became an official, like we're not allowed to once I became an NCAA official, we're not allowed to participate in things like that. I know this people still do, but I just don't. So I just, root for teams. Historically speaking, I just root for teams. And this is probably the first year where I just don't care at all. I mean, and it's not just about UCLA being down, because a lot of times when UCLA is down, I still care. Like I've wanted someone to do well. I've wanted someone to make a run, but I don't know. I really don't know. Um, I guess maybe North Carolina, and I think, and it's not because I'm like a front runner or anything, but they have a black coach, so
Mhm.
right. So
Yeah.
maybe that. But I know there are other black coaches there, so I would like an upset opportunity. So I'm not sure. Um, so I haven't really looked, but historically
Okay.
speaking, I just go for teams. Okay.
Hey, 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 hey. So what I'm thinking about right now, man, as we talk about brackets and everyone is, well, by now you have had to have your bracket completed in order for it to even be a bracket since games have already taken place. But looking at who could possibly be Cinderella. And so as we look at the brackets, teams that stand out to me that could possibly become that Cinderella team.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry. I'm sorry.
no, go
San
ahead.
Diego State. I'm going for San Diego
Okay.
State.
San Diego
Yeah, go
State.
ahead.
There you
I'm going
go.
for San
So
Diego
you
State.
you go into Aztecs.
Yeah.
So as we look at teams that could be Cinderella teams, or yeah, I'd say Cinderella teams. You look at teams like South Dakota State, a 15 seed team. You look at a 16 seed team, Wagner, who plays a very competitive, fundamentally sound form of basketball, compliments of their coach Donald Copeland, a Seton Hall alum. Coach Copeland has Wagner playing very, very well, and they're going up against that Mack truck in the form of North Carolina. So that's going to be a tough. But as you just look at teams that have made the tourney that could possibly end up becoming a Cinderella story, when you have teams like Wagner, you have the likes of a 15th seed Long Beach State. Although they're facing Arizona, it's going to be tough. But just looking at the names, Long Beach State is not a team that we're accustomed to seeing, have an opportunity to dance in the tourney. So, you always look for opportunities for, okay, what's going to be that big story? Who's going to be the St. Peters of this year? Who's going to be that team that comes out of virtual obscurity and knocks everyone's brackets or throws everyone brackets in the trash? And so, I look at schools like Longwood University out of Virginia, who's a 16 seed. Yeah, they're facing Houston, so the odds are against them. They're not necessarily in their favor, but there are quite a few teams here that we have not seen much of. As mentioned, Grambling State won tonight. They're going to face Purdue next. But let's buckle up because before you know it, a team that you least expect to step up to the occasion will do just that. In terms of my bracket, I filled out my bracket. I always fill out my bracket. Right now I'm rolling, but we're only in pretty much day 1.5 because not many teams have played. Um, I'll get down to my final for the final four. I have UConn, Alabama, Florida, and Creighton. And then in the finals, I have UConn versus Creighton. That's probably some of it. That is, of course, Coach
Bias.
Dan.
You think it's bias?
Yeah, it could be a little. I can't lie. It could be a little Big East bias because out of all the conferences, Big East is what I watch most. Like I pretty much watch every Big East team.
Hmm.
So Coach Danny Hurley versus Coach McDermott of Creighton. So I have UConn versus Creighton in the finals, and then UConn taking it all.
And what seed is
And
Creighton? 3 seed.
Creighton, Creighton is hold on.
Yeah,
Creighton
they
is
play.
a number 3 seed. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
number 3 seed. They can shoot the lights out. Their center, Cockbrenner. Yeah, Cockbrenner is he's a traditional back to the basket center. But the crazy thing is, as soon as you think he's a one trick pony, he can step out and hit the 15-footer, a hook shot, plays great defense, averages two blocks a game. So yeah, I have UConn versus Creighton in the finals, but we will see. There will be some upsets. One player that I really like who's not on the radar of many. He plays for Drake. His name is Darnell Brody, and he has the perfect name because he's like a 6'10", 6'11", 280-pound Adonis looking dude, man, who gets every rebound, and he runs the court well. So look out for Darnell Brody, who plays for Drake. He's that player. I think this this NCAA tournament could really help him fare well in the form of professional aspirations next up. So yeah, from there I talked about Cinderella. I talked about bracket predictions, and from there let's transition into the NIT. So full disclosure, up until a few seasons ago, I'd always reference the NIT as the not in tournament. So therefore, you're playing in the NIT. But I've had to evolve and I've had to grow. The NIT is actually putting on a great tournament, and there are teams that were really close to making it to the NCAA tournament, but most of them were like the last four out. And so that happened in the form of these four. Well, it happened in the form of at least two of the number one seeds. So Seton Hall came in as a number one seed. They had a season of 20 with a 20-12 record. Wake Forest, number one seed with a 20-13 record. Indiana State, they finished with a 28-6 record, their number one seed. And then Villanova was the final number one seed. Although their record was 18-15, they had a couple of big wins during their season. And so Seton Hall pulled out an overtime victory tonight. Seton Hall faced a feisty St. Joe's team out of Philadelphia, and that one was closer than it needed to be. Had me over here sweating, but Seton Hall pulled that game out 75-72. Yesterday is when NIT action actually tipped off, and so we had 9 games on the docket yesterday, with Georgia over Xavier 78-76. Ohio State over Cornell, 88-83. We had Boston College over Providence, 62-57. University of North Texas over LSU, 84-77. And now North Texas Eagles, they're traveling to South Orange, New Jersey, because they'll face Seton Hall next. We had Minnesota over Butler, 73-72. South Florida over University of Central Florida, 83-77. Iowa 91, Kansas State 82, Virginia Tech 74, Richmond 58, and Utah 84 over UC Irvine 75. One thing that this leads me to, and we were talking about it briefly before the show started, was there were other teams who were also invited to the National Invitational Tournament, but after not being selected to go to the NCAA tournament, these teams opted out. And I kind of just wanted to take a deeper dive on what that looks like and kind of get some feedback from you, AC. So 7 teams were invited to come and participate in the National Invitational Tournament. And those 7 teams were Pittsburgh, who had a season in which they went 22-11, St. John's with a record of 20-13, Memphis, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Indiana, Syracuse, and you also said UCLA, right?
Yes.
So as a coach, let's just put our coaching hats on for right now. As a coach, yes, you're heartbroken, especially if you did what you felt you needed to do to make it to the NCAA tournament. As a coach, it's Selection Sunday. Your team is not selected to go participate in March Madness, but you get that call from the NIT saying, hey, we want you to come and participate. Talk about it. What would make you decide that you're going to decline going to participate in the NIT?
So it's a really interesting story. I'm ready to tackle it, at least from the Pac-12 perspective. So let me start with that. Let me start with UCLA. First of all, let me give you my top 4 teams that were invited and declined: St. John's, Ole Miss, USC, and UCLA. And I guess we like to talk in multiples of 5. So let's go with also Pitt as the 5th team. So from UCLA's perspective, Sam, we won the NIT under Walt Hazard. Under Walt Hazard, and had a banner up. And then when we won that 95 NCAA tournament, we took that banner down, and it was like no more NIT for us. The women would be in that space now, although the women were in the NIT a couple years ago. Like, the women are a number 2 seed right now, but they were in the NIT 2 years ago in a really down year. It's just not in UCLA's DNA to accept an NIT bid anymore. So that's that. I think that SC, who does not have deep basketball tradition, will be looking at LeBron James Jr. and the promise of this team in the same building as the Juju Watkins led women's basketball team, just not allowed to go to the NIT. I think that's where it was for them. And then I think that if you have, and then also UCLA is what they consider to be a blue blood, right? USC is not, but UCLA is. So you mentioned a couple of other teams that have a rich basketball tradition. Syracuse, Indiana, Memphis, not as much as Syracuse, Indiana, and UCLA, but Memphis. And then rounding it out, Washington. I don't know why Washington declined with a 17-15 record. I don't know. But the other teams, it's like that wasn't your goal. And so either you're not good enough to win the NIT and you don't believe that that would be a promising journey for you, or you just feel like you're too good for it. Same thing with Ole Miss. I have no idea. You know, like for instance, they were 2-9 in their last 11 games after starting the season going 13-0. Ole Miss doesn't have rich basketball tradition, but out of the teams this year, they are one of the top teams. You know, they were probably one of the last teams that wound up being out, like St. John's. And I don't know. Well, last teams that were out that did not accept the NIT. St. John's had a strong season, and they have old school rich basketball tradition. Not so much recently, but the coach is Rick Pitino.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to the NIT. And I quote, "We remain focused on building a championship level basketball program here at St. John's." Period.
Yeah. Well, it's multi-tiered for me. So
Okay.
if you're a coach and you have a team of upperclassmen, so if you have, say, on your team, you have 3 or 4 seniors who could conceivably not making it to March Madness, not dancing in the tourney, could have been the last time that they played basketball. So I think, like in the form of Seton Hall, that's what happened. They didn't make the tourney. They were close but no cigar. So Coach Holloway went to the team and said, let's vote on this. Who wants to go play in the NIT? And he allowed the players to determine that the team wanted to march ahead and play in the NIT. I think it's great because, as I said, the team has multiple seniors, 4 seniors on the team. And it's also great for the fan base because the thing that I do enjoy about the NIT is when you're a top seed, you're playing on your campus. So your fan base still gets to experience some postseason play, and you still get to build some momentum that way. And really, it's pretty much for your fan base. And I think even when it comes to recruiting to a certain extent, no, is it as big as the NCAA tournament? No, by no means is it. But it is still a postseason tournament where you can highlight your play. And if you're fortunate enough to go deep in the NIT, you get to live another day. And I think that's important.
So you're not wrong.
Yeah.
And I didn't say that it's right that UCLA declines it. It's the standard.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: UCLA was really bad this year on the men's
Right.
side. So maybe you can go win this tournament. And I know that we can't put the banner up in Poly, but you could say that you won something this year.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's kind of tough for Mick Cronin because he's had Final Fours. So I get it, but I don't know. Like I think that I come from the school of, if you're invited, you need to go. Like I think so. I'm ready for these teams to decline, but it's actually kind of ridiculous. And so it really does actually hurt the NIT. But from the NIT's perspective, you don't want to come, fine. You know, we'll still have a great tournament, but if you had the bigger names, I mean, come on, like St. John's. Right. So you could potentially, like, isn't the NIT championship like it's in Dayton. No, wait, yes. Where's the NIT championship?
It's in Finkel. It's in Hinkle Fieldhouse. So that's in Indianapolis.
Indianapolis, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I would like to see a basketball rich squad like St.
like
John's.
like a
Or
Syracuse,
I was gonna say UCLA, but yeah, like those three, and let's say somebody else that I mentioned, maybe SC in the final four of the NIT.
right?
Wow. Plus these kids can keep getting NBA looks, right? Because
Mhm.
their season's not over. Now you go lose in the first round, that's you know,
Right.
half of the teams have to lose in the first round. But I don't think the teams that declined to go were going to lose in the first round, except for maybe Ole Miss and Washington. Well, no,
Right.
not Ole Miss, but probably Washington.
Yeah.
But
And
but not Ole Miss. So yeah,
and I think
you
when
know,
you can put those basketball rich schools with these uh, amazing basketball histories, if you can put them in the NIT, it really helps strengthen the NIT because the NIT doesn't just look like the little brother of the tournament. Yes, we know it's not as robust as the NCAA tournament, but it still would give it some oomph and give it some extra eyes and extra attention, which I think would be helpful.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So I have one more thing as it pertains to men's basketball.
Okay.
You didn't know I was going to bring this one up. So Selection Sunday, as mentioned, we just experienced Selection Sunday. And then the first thing Monday morning, the transfer portal opened.
Hmm.
And so that a lot of teams that aren't in the tournament said that they wanted to get the jump. They wanted to jump into the portal. Do you think that the portal should be postponed until all tournaments adjourn? Or do you think that the portal, like by having it open on Monday, did that give anyone a competitive advantage over, say, teams that are gearing up traveling for the tournament? If you're not traveling for the tournament, did you have a competitive advantage?
Well, okay. So let me just throw this out there. You're no, you didn't,
Mm-hmm.
because you're probably not at the top of most of the list if you didn't make the NCAA tournament,
Mm-hmm.
um, or the NIT tournament, or the NIT. I'm sorry, because the tournament is literally in the name, or the NIT. So no. However, what I did think was the absolute most compelling thing about the portal. You had a freshman leave the University of South Carolina, 32-0, number one in the nation, number one overall seed in the NCAA women's basketball tournament for the third year in a row, actually. But this year, undefeated. And she's still actively on the team, and she hit the transfer portal as soon as it opened up. So now she's off the team, and I don't know what this actually did for you. It saved you 2 weeks, but I mean, there's a potential to get a ring. Obviously, I hope UCLA beat South Carolina in the final, even though I love Dawn Staley, but I mean, South Carolina or the field. A lot of people are taking South Carolina. I don't understand that,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know which top teams on the men's side had anyone going to the portal. But I think it's just really interesting timing. But I wouldn't
Yeah.
change it.
No, it's funny as you talk about timing because did you hear about the most interesting thing that happened on the men's side with Long Beach State and their coach?
Wait, hold on. What's up, brother? My man, yeah. What's going on, brother? Yeah, the NIT is definitely the little brother. Thanks for tuning in. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, what'd you say, brother Gardner?
So Long Beach State University 49ers.
Oh, so San Diego State and Long Beach State. Those are the two I'm going
Yes.
for. Local,
Yes. So
local, local. Right?
extremely local. So Long Beach State's coach and the athletic director, they agreed that once the season adjourned, that coach would be relieved of his duties. He no longer would be at the helm. But then
Yes.
they went ahead and won their conference championship, and
Yes.
now they're in the big dance.
What's up, DJ?
So
Right.
so does what happens as a result? Does coach still get relieved of his duties with them going to the dance, or
Yes. But those escalator that escalator clause kicks in and he gets those bonuses.
Right.
Yeah. And guess what? He's a hotter commodity as soon as he is relieved of his duties.
He's like, this is a glorified audition for other teams that are going to say we want that guy.
Yeah. I mean, and he was there for a long time, or I'm sorry, he's still there. He's been there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like 13 to 15 years. I can't remember what the number is. It's kind of funny. I have Long Beach State in lacrosse on Friday.
So, nice.
Long Beach State, yeah. I haven't had San Diego State in years. Okay, so I think it's really interesting, and yes, he will still be relieved of his duties. 17 years. Thank you, brother. He's been there for 17 years. And
wow.
I mean, here's the thing. If they want to bring him back, pay me. Pay me. Because I just took us back to the tournament.
Yep.
Right?
Coach Dan said, I'm gonna need those chips.
Yeah. And I need a public apology.
There we go.
He made a joke today that he was working for free.
Yeah. He's making his rounds. He was on CBS Mornings this morning. Oh. So yeah, making his rounds.
You guys gonna have him on your on one of your shows?
Don't do that. No, okay. Don't do that. Don't do that. No.
All right.
We're talking the collective podcast right now. That's what.
Okay, I didn't specify which shows. I just said one of your shows. Okay, cool. This guy right here. Shout out to Sam Gardner III.
There we go. The trilogy's in the house, man. I'm glad that we were able to talk some men's hoops, brother, because I know we're about to transition over to. This is always. I always take my notepad out when you start talking women's hoops because your IQ and your level of knowledge about the women's game of basketball is nothing short of impressive, brother. So I learn a great deal. I take notes when you break out this segment every week.
So listen, thank you for that. But let me tell you, when I used to do brackets, I was nice with the brackets.
Oh, now, I can only imagine.
Now, Chris and them hurt my feelings twice. And them hurt my feelings 3 times because I had the Fab Five all 3 of them years. So that didn't really work out. But
wait. So you said Chris let you down?
Well, twice because he left. After. No, I didn't say he let me down. I said no. They let my bracket down, but I was going for them. Just put it like that. I was going for them. But check this out: the bracket that was almost perfect was the 95 bracket.
Okay.
I actually had UCLA taking it over North Carolina as opposed to Arkansas. That was my only misstep, and I won the bracket challenge.
Okay.
That year in all the places because I used the same bracket. It was pretty good, and that was the year I really ramped up my sports writing too. So I printed the bracket in the I think it was Black Voice News and the LA Sentinel. Black Voice News in Riverside and the LA Sentinel.
Those Bruins were tough. Anytime you can derail 40 minutes of hell. 40 minutes of hell was scary, bro.
Okay, hold on. So I wasn't doing brackets when UNLV let us down, brother. It was just
that was in the
all the way.
That was like late 80s, early 90s.
It was. Well, yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah, of course they let us down. Listen. Okay, so we're gonna talk about it.
And it was against the Dukies, right?
Come on, dude, just stop cursing at me. So I finally watched that game again. I want to say in 2018, and my feelings haven't changed. They tried not to win that game, and I'm just gonna say it like that. That's the most polite way I can say it. They tried not to win that game.
What I'm saying is mob ties.
Well, yeah. So that's why I'm not saying. I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna get hit today. I think it's been long enough. But
hey, check up on me tomorrow. Make sure I'm still around, please.
You said mob ties?
Mob ties.
It's the church version.
Thank you. I was hoping so.
Yeah, look. Yeah. If there is a church version, here's what I do know. when it's Ace Hood, we don't believe they're telling the truth, right? So there is no church version, even though the E is gone. The funny thing is, your boy, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. The one who's like the elusive one. I can't even think of the name of his Exhibit 3.
Mm-hmm.
J Electronica.
Yeah,
He everything is edited now.
I know.
Exhibit C as the church version is very troubling to me because it still has
Mhm.
an E and it's a lie. So it's the
Yes.
opposite of Ace Hood. It's the
Hmm.
opposite.
And I love it. I'm all for the give me the church version, and I'm rolling.
I understand that side of you, but
Hmm.
okay, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay, Sam, church versions all around.
Look, I was in a meeting today, and I was told I said a curse word in the meeting. Right after the meeting, one of my colleagues put me to the side and was like, "Dog, you cursed in the meeting." I said, "What did I say?" He said, "You said malarkey," and in the tone you said malarkey, I knew it was a curse word. There you go.
I don't have time for this. I'm like, we're just gonna shut the show down now. If malarkey
Malarkey.
is the tone that you said it in,
He said, since you don't curse, the tone in which you said malarkey, I knew that was a curse word, actually.
so what was it? BS, MF,
I
S?
guess since it starts with an M, it would have been maybe some MF and BS. I don't know.
Oh, maybe you did curse a little bit. Okay.
I might have. I don't know.
My football mentor likes to say frick
Frick.
when it's.
Okay.
I assume you would insert an F word there.
Yeah.
I don't
My
really
late
know.
grandpa would say he would get real upset when the Dodgers would lose, and he would say, Bull Stew. So, Bull Stew is what he would say.
And he was like a reverend or something.
No, he was. Well, he was a
Oh,
deacon. He was a deacon, but yeah.
okay.
Mm.
Well,
He loved the
the titles
Lord.
are kind of fluid to me. Something
He
where
said,
he went to church twice a week.
yeah, he loved the Lord. Best friends with the pastor, and I love the Lord. Love
he,
the Lord.
he went to church twice a week is my point, right?
Yes, they knew
All
Deacon
right.
Gardner. Yes.
All right. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna kick it off with the women's side. Yeah, let's kick it off with the women's side. And what I'm gonna do is first of all show you guys the bracket. And I'm gonna start off with the first four, kind of like Sam did with his. And now what's weird is everything's happening at the same time as of today. So for the men's side, there were two first four games yesterday, and then and then the third and fourth final first four games today on the men's side. Well, coincidentally, on the women's side, there is on the women's side, we have the first two games of the first four today. And then the second two games tomorrow. So here's what we have. Let me go back to the bracket. I needed to say something to Kayla offline. Okay, so we already had a really tight game between Sacred Heart and Presbyterian earlier, and that game took place on South Carolina's floor. And the winner of that game would be the 16 seed here, and they would play against South Carolina. And that the winner of that game was actually Presbyterian. And now the game that's on right now is Vanderbilt versus Columbia, taking place on the Virginia Tech floor. And let me give you guys an update on that score because I'm obviously not watching the game. So okay, Vandy is up 7 right now at the end of the third. So on the women's side, there are quarters as opposed to halves. So going into the fourth quarter, Vandy is up 7. And let's see, they were up 30. Oh, they were up 36-26 at the half. So Columbia won the third, but they need to close some ground if they want to either force overtime or win that game. Okay. So now looking at the bracket, those first four games that I'm talking about, those are so the ones earlier were 16 seeds. So like I said, they'll play against South Carolina. And then the winner of Vanderbilt Columbia is a 12 seed matchup. And the winner of that game will play Baylor. So shout out to Elaine, who is right around the corner from Baylor. Tomorrow you have Holy Cross playing UT Martin, and the winner of that game will play Iowa. That's also 16 seeds. The winner will play Iowa. And then you have the game I'm really looking forward to, Auburn versus Arizona, which is an 11 seed matchup. And the winner of that will play Syracuse. And I absolutely expect Arizona to win that game, and I expect Arizona to beat Syracuse. So I expect Arizona to not only beat Auburn, but beat Syracuse and then face UConn in the second round, because I don't think Jackson State can get past UConn. That being said, I just want to kind of talk to you guys about the seeds. So the number one seeds are South Carolina, Iowa, USC, and Texas. And we actually knew going into Selection Sunday that South Carolina, the winner of the SEC tournament and regular season, Iowa, the winner of the Big Ten tournament and regular season, and USC, the winner of the Pac-12 tournament, but second, tied with UCLA in the regular season. We knew they would be number one seeds because SC beat UCLA in the semis and they beat Stanford in the final. But there was a question about who would be the final number one seed. Would it be the Big 12 winner in Texas, or would it be the Pac-12 runner-up in Stanford? And the committee chose Texas. So look what Don Staley did with South Carolina. They lost 5 starters that went to the WNBA. 5 starters went to the WNBA, and they still remain dominant. They finished the season 32-0. And their success this year, it's players like Bree Hall, Raven Johnson, Ashlyn Watkins, Chloe Kitts, and Camila Cardoso, who were there but then you have a new person like Tahina Pow coming in and helping not turn the tide, but helping right the ship. And maybe they're even more dominant than they were. And they lost number 1 overall pick, Aaliyah Boston, who was also the rookie of the year and also made the first team, WNBA all first team. So then you have Iowa. This is their first number 1 seed in the tournament since '92. And you've all heard of Caitlin Clark. She leads Division One in scoring and assists. So we're talking 31.9 points and 8.9 assists. So almost 32 points, almost 9 assists. And she leads in 3-pointers per game. Their offense, they have the highest scoring offense in Division One, and they won their 3rd consecutive Big Ten tournament title. They are the 2nd overall number 1 seed. Then you have USC, which is by all accounts ahead of schedule. Superstar Juju Watkins is a freshman. She's also projected to be an All-American. She's projected
Juju.
She's from LA. She's projected to be the freshman of the year. And she's absolutely going to be an All-American. And it's wild that she burst on the scene and just propelled them. And they have other pieces. So it's not just her. You know, you have Watkins, but then you also have Raya Marshall, and then you have transfers, Mackenzie Forbes and Kayla Padilla and Caitlin Davis, who came in. And, you know, they are trying to go deep. So they're the 3rd overall number 1 seed. And then you have Texas. They lost Rory Harmon to injury, but they finished 30-4. They finished 2nd in the Big 12, but then they won the conference tournament. That's why there was a question about who would be the number 1 seed out of them and Stanford, because Stanford did the opposite. They won the regular season and then lost the and then lost the Pac-12 championship game in the tournament. So, you know, but they have strong inside game. Taylor Jones, Aaliyah Moore, and Deanna Gaston. So those are your number 1 seeds. As I mentioned, Stanford didn't get that last number 1 seed, so that makes them the 1st overall number 2 seed. They won the Pac-12 regular season title, like I said, and Cameron Brink and Kiki Iriafin, they've been the leaders of that team. And I might have butchered her last name. I've never even heard it pronounced. I've only seen it throughout the season. But it's important. They won the last regular season Pac-12 championship, and then USC won the final Pac-12 tournament. Now, who came in second in both of those is UCLA. They tied with SC for second in the regular season, and then they came in third. So they made the semifinals, so they basically came in third in the Pac-12 tournament. They're led by Lauren Betts, who is their dominant inside player. They have guards Charisma Osborne, shout out to Charisma, fifth-year senior, Kiki Rice, super duper sophomore, and London Jones, super duper sophomore. Kiki Rice came from the Friends School out in the DMV all the way to UCLA and helped build, right? So, second, the number 2 player in the land behind Lauren Betts actually last year came to UCLA. Lauren Betts went to Stanford, but then she transferred in. And then the number 1 player this year, like I said, Juju Watkins, she went to SC. So you have Stanford and UCLA. You also have Notre Dame, who has, guess what? The number 2 freshman in the country, and that's Hannah Hidalgo, and she's going to be an All-American too. So you have 2 freshmen that are going to be All-Americans. And normally when you have a freshman that's an All-American, that's an All-American, they're also the freshman of the year. But the problem is when you have Juju Watkins, who's probably by most accounts the second best player in the country, she's a freshman too. So Hannah Hidalgo won't win freshman of the year. But when you talk about a complete player, she plays offense, she plays defense, she's killing the game. So they won their first ACC tournament title under Coach Niele Ivey. And like I said, Hannah Hidalgo's killing it. Hold on one second. So going back to it, sorry. Going back to it. So then you have Ohio State, which is also a number 2 seed. They won the Big Ten regular season, but they didn't win the Big Ten tournament. Like I said, Iowa won that. And their defense is led by J.C. Sheldon and Celeste Taylor. And when you put them with the scoring of Cody McMahon and Taylor Theory, they are formidable opponents. Going on to the number 3 seeds, you have UConn, who's normally a number 1, right? But they've been down. However, they did dominate the Big East. They went from the American Athletic Conference back to the Big East, and all they do is dominate, right? Paige Beckers is back. Aaliyah Edwards with her mask is back. They lead the team. Unfortunately, AZ Fudd is still injured, and she was the number 1 player of the year before Kiki, and she went to UConn. But she's still injured, and she battles injuries just like Paige Beckers. But Beckers is back. Aaliyah Edwards is back. Freshman KK Arnold and Ashlyn Shade stepped up. And so UConn, while they were quote unquote down early, they've kind of righted the ship. And so they're a dangerous number 3 seed going into that matchup against Arizona is my prediction, right? Then you have LSU, who felt like they should have been a 2 seed. They are a 3 seed. And guess what? They're in the same bracket as UCLA as a 2 seed. So it's Iowa 1, UCLA 2, LSU 3. So if you look at that Sweet 16 matchup, if they win out, then it's LSU versus UCLA if they win out for the right to play against Iowa to go to the Final Four. So that's a pretty tough bracket for, I think, the other teams. I think it's a favorable bracket for UCLA because UCLA is not scared of Iowa or LSU. But with Iowa being the number 2 overall, the number 1 seed, so basically the number 2 overall team, it's tough that they had UCLA and LSU in the bracket. I know that people wanted them to have LSU because that's a rematch of the championship game last year, but that's still a tough draw for Iowa. But I'm going with my girl Rebecca Lobo, who says UCLA against South Carolina in the championship. I just don't agree with who she says is going to win it, but UCLA versus South Carolina, the best 2 teams in the country for the first half of the season, she has facing off. So you have UConn, LSU, you have NC State. They were kind of surprises in the ACC. They were expected to finish in the bottom half, but they wound up contending for the conference title, and they're a very balanced team, offense and defense, and Asia James leads them in scoring. And then you have Oregon State, so the swan song of the Pac-12. You have UCLA, USC, Stanford, Oregon State, all 3 seeds or better. So you have 1 number 1 seed, 2 number 2 seeds, and a number 3 seed. And they had to put all of them in different regions. They couldn't put any of them in the same region. And so Oregon State is that final number 3 seed. And Reagan Beers leads them. And they have a really young roster. They also exceeded expectations. They started off they were predicted to be in the bottom half of the Pac-12, but they finished in the top half, and they actually made it to the semifinals of the Pac-12 tournament. So they're right on track where they should be based on their season, not based on the preseason. And kind of closing this out, the 4 seeds, Gonzaga, who's always killing on the men's side, has had a really strong season for the West Coast Conference. They're 30-3. They won the regular season, but they actually got upset by Portland in the West Coast Conference tournament, and therefore Portland got the automatic bid, and that means that somebody got bumped out of this, and it was probably actually Mississippi State. Arizona was the next team to go, and so Arizona was the last team in. Mississippi State was the first team out once Portland beat Gonzaga. But Gonzaga is a strong number 4 seed. Indiana, they've battled injuries all season, but they still only lost 4 times. And they are a very strong defensive team. They beat Iowa this year. And so now it's just we wait and see if Mackenzie Holmes will be healthy. If she's healthy, then they can make a run in the tournament. You have Ayoka Lee with Kansas State is another number 4 seed, and she's been killing in the Big 12. They've got some losses, but they had enough quality wins to make it to the number 4 seed. And actually, they had a stronger maybe first 2/3 of the season. So they were actually expected to, like once the season started, they were expected to probably contend for a 2 or 3 seed, but they had some late losses that wound up putting them at a 4 seed. And then you have Virginia Tech. And this is the one that is thinking what might have been. Virginia Tech was literally battling for a number 1 seed 3 weeks before the season ended. A number 1 seed. They were in the top 4 in the country, and then they lost 4 in a row, and then they lost Elizabeth Kitley in the championship, the ACC championship game, and you just don't know. You just don't know. Like they are a number 4 seed because the tournament committee saw them play without her and didn't like what they saw, but they're also a number 4 seed because they just kept losing. And so basically they controlled their own destinies and just kept losing and dropped all the way to a number 4 seed. I could go over the 5, 6s, 7s, and all of that through 16. But the interesting thing about the women's tournament is no one below a 3 seed has ever won the women's tournament. So it's not like the men's team, the men's side, where you have 6s and 7s that go to the championship or win. It just hasn't happened. In the history of the tournament, there's been one 16 seed that even won a game in the 64 team bracket, and that was when Harvard with Allison Feaster beat Stanford, who have Vanessa Nygaard, Kristen Focal, Olympia Scott, Charmin Scott, but they were battling injuries. They being Stanford, and so Harvard got them, and that's the only number 16 seed that won. So I also want to go over some players to watch in the tournament.
Question for you before you hit players.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Man, go ahead and give me if you can 2 sleeper teams. 2 sleeper teams.
Arizona
Okay.
is definitely my sleeper. And then was really tough. What? So when you say sleeper, how low do you go?
When I say sleeper, like you said, you were going all the way up to what did you go up to? 3rd or 4th seed? Where'd you stop?
I stopped after the 4s.
After the 4th. So looking at the bracket, a team that may be, because you've said since in the history of the 64, there's only been one 16 seed that has won one game, correct?
Yeah.
Is there anyone
Yes.
that may be a 16 seed that you could see maybe breaking that and winning at least one game?
No, I don't see.
No.
Well, yes.
Or what would you say is the lowest seed you could see winning a game? here.
I got the 11 seed winning multiple games, but here, okay,
Okay.
so that's your question. I've got a few sleepers then,
Okay.
but the way the tournament is now with the first four, obviously we're gonna have 16 seeds win games and then lose in the real first round to South Carolina and Iowa. Here's the thing: South Carolina, Iowa, Texas, SC, they're not battling injuries like Stanford was when they were the number one seed and lost to Harvard. So I don't see a 16 seed getting through. I would say the weakest of the two seeds it's kind of crazy. Well, no, the two seeds are strong. That's the problem there. So I don't see 15 seeds getting through because I would say Stanford would have been the weakest one seed, but they're not the weakest two seed. So I don't see Norfolk State beating Stanford, and Notre Dame is gelling right now. Obviously, UCLA is going to win the thing, so they're okay. I don't see Ohio State. But here's what I have. I have Arizona, and I have them with the potential to upset UConn because Arizona was supposed to finish in the top 4 of the Pac-12. They just haven't had the season that was expected, but they could get hot. Here's the thing. Number 6 seed Tennessee gave South Carolina all it could handle in the semifinal of the SEC tournament, and it was their third time playing them. But if Tennessee plays anybody else, let's say other than UCLA, like they played South Carolina, they should beat them because South Carolina is the best team in the land, and it took a miracle shot from South Carolina's big. She banked
a bank shot three. Yeah.
She banked in a 3 at the buzzer. Well, nobody was guarding her. I don't know what Kelly Harper was doing with that defense to win that game. So I think Tennessee is primed to do some work. And I also think that Utah, which is a 5 seed, like, first of all, the bracket that they're in, other than Stanford, and Stanford, they lost a couple games late. I don't believe in Texas, even though they're a 1 seed. I know they had a run, right? And they won the Big 12 tournament, and they beat tournament teams to get there. So that's why the committee picked them over Stanford. But I don't necessarily think that Texas or Stanford are coming out of there. Now, I love Stanford because I love Tara, and they've been in the Pac-12, but that Pac-12 thing is going away. And I don't believe in Texas. I mean, yeah, they only lost 4 times, but here's the thing. That they are the most vulnerable bracket. So Gonzaga as a 4 seed, possible. Like, I don't see them losing to UC Irvine, even though they're coming off a loss to Portland, and UC Irvine is better than Portland. It's just that it was Portland's 3rd time seeing Gonzaga, right? So yeah, they were finally able to break through. I would say Arizona's dangerous in USC's bracket, and Utah and Gonzaga. Now, Gonzaga's a 4 seed, so it doesn't really count as being dangerous based on my standards, but I would say Gonzaga and Utah, because Utah started also top 10 and just couldn't get out of its own way. So I really feel like they've got a shot to do some dirt. And then I think, well, here it is. Colorado can beat Iowa in the Sweet 16.
Okay. Fair enough, brother.
Colorado can beat Iowa because, like, all of these Pac-12 teams have been in the top 10. No other conference could say that. You've had 7 Pac-12 teams in the top 10.
Wow. Yeah, that's big.
They didn't finish that way, but they've been there. And guess what? No other conference has 4 teams on the top 3 lines like the Pac-12.
Right.
So all the teams that didn't make it, that, you have, like I said, 2 number 5 seeds, Utah and Colorado are both dangerous. They could beat Texas and Iowa.
Wow.
Arizona
Buckle up.
Championship game 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was, 3 years ago. Like, it was the other day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Look, one other thing before I know you're going to point out your key players. We were talking the other day about the growth of the women's game and just the excitement behind it. Man, one thing that gets me excited that we didn't even talk about is just some of the names, dog. When you're hearing Juju and Charisma and London and Kiki and Hannah Hidalgo, like, these names, dog, they sound like freaking modern day superheroes, man. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of these women are freaking superheroes because they can ball.
Right. Right.
Yeah, man. Hey,
Yeah,
mom.
like listen. So London Jones, who my homegirl Vonda calls a tiny little thing. I actually used to rep London in high school because she went to school out here. So when I was still doing high school, I had her games out in the Big Eight out here in the Inland Empire in California. Um, Hannah Hidalgo, yeah, dope name. Kiki Rice, yeah, like yeah, Juju Watkins, Kiki Rice, even Az Fudd. Like I love these. Like she's injured, but yeah, I love these names. I absolutely love these names. So yeah, brother, legit.
Yeah, man.
So
Good
you
stuff.
wanted me to go over some people?
Yeah, man. Let's go over some people. How many you gonna put out there? How many you gonna
One,
let the people know
two,
about?
three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. I'll stop at 10.
So you gonna name them? Are you gonna give some of their attributes?
I'm just gonna just touch on them real quick.
Okay, bet. Let's do it.
Yeah. So Caitlin Clark, Iowa Hawkeyes. Listen, I won't deny it. She's a straight rider. I don't want to mess with her. See, I did the church version for you. Shout out to Tupac. Um, what like leading the country in points and assists, that's huge because that means and she shoots at a high percentage. So it's kind of like she's nice and she's nice to her teammates, right?
Yep. Yep.
So she's gonna be
Spreads
at
the
the
wealth.
top
Let's
for me.
spread the wealth.
Yeah, so she's at the top for me, and that's based on who I am. That's weird for me, just
Yeah.
based on however you want to work that, right?
Oh,
But
I
Juju
know.
Watkins, Trojan killer. She ice like absolute frozen water in her veins. This is SC. I don't know if I said this, but this is their first number one seed since '86 when Cheryl Miller was a senior. And by the way, the two seed for UCLA is our first in school history because the championship that we have is not NCAA. It's the AIAW
Hmm.
with Ann Myers and them playing for Billy Moore. All right, so Juju. Then we have Stanford's Cameron Brink. She's a defender and she can score. She's gonna block shots. She's gonna get rebounds, and she's not a punk. So she's huge for Stanford. And she's important for them if they're going to do anything. So that's 3. Number 4 for me is Paige Beckers. She had the ACL injury that kept her out forever, and she's back. And once again, she elevates her game when it matters most. Now, the Big East, they're not really challenging them, but they do play a lot of non-conference games. Like UCLA put hands on them, but they won a lot of those other not South Carolina put hands on them, but they won a lot of those other South Carolina games. They won a lot of those other non-conference games, and her performance, like and by the way, she's not coming back, so she's gonna be a WNBA next year. But her legend just continues to grow every time that she laces them up for the Yukon Huskies. Shout out to Hannah Hidalgo. What am I on now? 5. Hannah
Hmm.
Hidalgo, the second best freshman in the land, but the fifth best player in the land. She's dazzled, and she's all around. She can score the ball, she can defend, and she's going to get assists too. Um, ACC Player of the Year, and such a bright future, right? Like she's amazing. So Notre Dame is in good hands now and in the future, just like USC with their freshmen, just like UCLA with their young crop of guards with Kiki and London, and then Lauren Betts is only a sophomore. That's their big. This is Charisma Osborne's last year. Shout out to Charisma. Thank you for coming back one more year. Tennessee's Rakia Jackson. This is her final year. She's a grad forward, but she shows up in the biggest games, right? She had a game against South Carolina in that semifinal, and I think that the Lady Vols can actually make some noise if they figure out how to pretend like everybody that they're playing is South Carolina. they can get out of that bracket. It could really be Tennessee against Utah in that going into the Sweet 16. It really can. All right. That's what I got there. So then Georgia Amore from Virginia Tech. So with Elizabeth Kitley out because she's injured and we don't know when she's coming back, but her right hand woman was Georgia Amore. Still Georgia Amore, right behind Rakia Jackson. For me, she embodies the spirit of determination and skill, and she's so pivotal in their success, especially without Kitley. How she goes is how they go. So, she's a leader on and off the floor. We'll see what happens with them. And then right behind her is Kitley. We don't know what's going to happen with her, but she is a focal point for Virginia Tech. And, as you see, that's the first school. What is that, 7 and 8 for me? That's the first school that has two people in that top 10 for me. And then I guess I'll go to 7, 8, 9. I'll go to 11. So 9 for me is Lauren Betts. One of my buddies who will remain nameless thinks that she's super soft. I don't agree that she's soft. I just think that there are a lot of times when she becomes disinterested because they forget how to use her. And when they remember how to use her, she's super solid. She's a great defender. She's great on offense. If you can get her the ball, she's not going to create her own shot. But if you can get her the ball, she does have post moves, and she can always finish around the cup, and she can block shots. So, I mean, she is crucial to the Bruins' success, and I do believe that they will win the national championship. Then you go with 10 and 11 with South Carolina's Camila Cardoso and Alyssa Peely of Utah, and that just really rounds out. Like I said, Utah is a threat, and South Carolina is the best team in the country. So you got to have somebody on their team in the top 10, and she is their leading scorer. She is suspended for the first round of the NCAA tournament because she was involved in an altercation against LSU in the SEC championship game, but she'll be available after that if they do get by Presbyterian. And because they sat there as a team and watched Presbyterian play Sacred Heart, I fully feel that they will know Presbyterian's weaknesses and exploit them and beat Presbyterian without Camila Cardoso. All right, that's what I got here, man. I'm not gonna talk about.
I gotta throw one in that list though, bro.
Well, I stopped at 11.
No, I'm just round it off. I'm gonna give you one more.
Who plays? I have my list keeps going, but you can insert your honorable mention.
I'm inserting my Anissa Morrow is mine because that 1-2 punch between Anissa and that LSU 1-2 punch between Anissa and Angel Reese.
Well, she's literally next. So here, let me stop at 12.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Anissa Morrow's transition to LSU has been seamless, and her partner Angel Reese formidable.
That's a dynamic duo right there, bro.
Together they form a duo that can navigate LSU through the tournament challenges. Yeah, and then I actually have Angel Reese a little further down, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. We're channeling the same energy right there. I like her as a guard because she hits the boards, dog. Because she almost gets 10 rebounds a game. That's why I'm like, yeah,
absolutely. All right, brother. Well, that's what I have. I have very boring UCLA versus South Carolina in the championship. That's a 2 versus the number 1 overall seed. Yeah, super excited about March Madness. I have Arizona winning tomorrow, and yeah,
that's good stuff, brother. Good stuff. This has been a great night of talk. This has been a great night of talking college basketball, man.
Yeah, it's definitely been fun. Yeah. Oh, all right. So Kayla? All right. So Kayla wants to say goodbye to everybody.
All righty. Have a good one.
Bye.
Here.
Bye.
Don't do that, Kayla. You have on a dress. Say bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. So listen, this is episode 139 of the Collective Podcast. I know we wound up really running with March Madness because this was a special March Madness episode. Thank you, Yaya, for coming through, Dietrich for coming through, Gretchen for coming through, everybody else that's watching and hasn't said anything. Thanks for coming through. Anybody who's going to watch it back or listen to it back, thank you. And as I've started to say lately, shout out to all the first time listeners, shout out to all the last time listeners, and shout out to everybody in between. First time viewers, last time viewers, and everybody in between also. We really appreciate you. And again, this is episode 139 of the Collective Podcast. We won't be on Saturday, so episode 140 will be the following Saturday. And we'll be back then. Brother?
True indeed.
We'll
True indeed.
People?
True indeed, man. Let's close out. Let's have a closeout, man.
All right, go ahead. All right. Well, hold on.
Cue me up on some closeout music.
Get back to my tools.
Get ready for the closeout.
New SG Trilogy.
All right, brother. It's always a vibe when you put on the closeout music, man. I get in the zone. So my closeout for this episode reflects upon two words. Carpe diem. So seize the day. And I look at this episode as our Carpe diem episode. When you said, hey man, let's tap in and do it. Let's tap in and do a March Madness special. I'm like, why not? What better time than today? So kudos to you. And I think that's something that our viewers and listeners can take with them. If there's something that, a dream you have, something on your mind, sometimes just jump in and do it. Don't procrastinate. Don't talk yourself out of it, because when you do jump into new adventures, it can be so fulfilling. So let's go ahead with Carpe Diem, seize the day, as my theme for this closeout. What about you, brother?
All right, well, thank you for that. Thank you for that, brother. So that's Sam. So for me, you know what I always say, and if you don't, then you'll hear it now. Let your family know you love them. Let your people know that you love them. Kiss them if you can, hug them if you can, and let them know that you love them. But also know that you don't have to love your family. I know it sounds weird, but you don't. You really don't. You just have to be related to them. So protect your peace at all costs. Protect your peace at all costs. And you don't, and so the people that you do love, just let them know. That's the key, right? And then I'm not even playing, he deterred himself off. I'm not even playing my closeout music. Oh, I didn't do anything. This is AC from LA. This is the closeout. None of that. Let me get my drops. Hold on. Let me go back to that.
New AC from LA.
Get ready for the closeout.
Yeah. All right. So now let me get back to my music. So I'm not saying you should just go around and hating your family. I'm just saying if people violate your peace, you don't have to like them just because they're related to you. It helps if you do like your relatives, but you just don't have to. That's all I'm saying. But the ones you do like, let them know. Like, I love my daughter, Kayla, who just came to say hi and bye to y'all. I love her. Love my mom, my sister, my pops. You know, I love Sam and his family. I'm not allowed to say names. Love Sam and his family. You know, I love Marlene and her family. Those are my people. You know what I'm saying? And then I love some of my family. And the ones I love, y'all know I love you, right? All right, cool. Episode 139 of the Collective Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the March Madness special. I don't know why Sam's over there fronting like something happened just now. Listen. Protect your peace at all costs. That's the key, right? Protect your peace at all costs. I'm in a sentimental mood as we get out of here. That's all you get. Now I'm about to play Tupac. All right. We out of here, Sam. Episode 139.
We're out. Peace. We appreciate you all.
We do appreciate you, and we always go out to Pac. But sometimes we go to Ill Out Scratch before we go to Pac. You put me through the neighborhood. We out of here. I already did that. Episode 139, March Madness special. I am. He is SG Trilogy, TC Pod official. the Collective Podcast.